Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest narration in the web series The Nature of Predators Book 2. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 35. It was unspeakably cold throughout every nerve. I could feel the power leaving the breaths from my lungs, and the life leaking onto the floor below. It was slipping away so quickly, a rapid drain from my insides. Multiple wounds had perforated my abdomen. Life was so fragile. I tried to claw my way up to find something to say, but shock was taking over. I was hanging onto consciousness by a thread. The governor had to know what would become of the galaxy and humanity in my stead. There had to be something better than this. A sudden eruption of violence and outrage. I had so many regrets, not the least of which was what happened to Earth. I begged her to reach out and find peace with the Arcsaw. I could feel her touch on my back and my head, but it was distant, fading fast. Spend the final strength to make eye contact to see what she sees. The Vendal's own blood was mixing with mine. There was a glaze in her eyes, almost masking the concern with remoteness. She had been a good friend to us, and I hated that she'd been hurt for it. I wondered if Tava, like all the rest of her kind, thought that we were animals now. My fear of what came next warred with my desire to fight for a cause. I could feel my blood pressure dropping, and a shallowness in my lungs trying to draw air. Was there life after death, or just eternal nothing? How would it feel? Death was inevitable, of course, but I always assumed that I had more time. I didn't want my person, myself, to be gone into the wind. Everything that I was and perceived would be nothing or for all eternity. The only solace I could find was the thin hope that the future would be better, that something would change. Darkness, the prison, eyes sealed, never opening again. Irresistible to just so unspeakably tired, so weary of my burdens and this world. It's as if I'm leaving my body, stepping out of it, peaceful and frigid as ice. There is no sensation. There was a crack of light in my visual field, illuminating the darkness of unconsciousness. It battered away the gloom as an unspeakable calm washed over me. Memories and faces of people long gone rapid fire past me. I saw my grandmother knitting on the porch, smiling at me with a face I thought I'd forgotten. The moment that I'd been elected to the United Nations' highest office, full of youth and fervor. The ideas and fire for peace all rushed back in an instant. I would have teared up if I had any connection to my body. My parents stood side by side in the effervescent glow, pride in their pupils. There was a warmth in their gaze, and I could feel that it was all going to be okay. My concerns for the world slipped away. It was a place I no longer belonged to. It was time to heed the Reaper's call, to join the sea of faces in the great beyond. I'll be safe and rest here. A final moment of acceptance, of triumphant euphoria, the grand finale, the last gasps of consciousness. Then there's emptiness. The lights are dimmed, as it all slips into a place where nothing exists, and nothing ever will. My will and ability to process snatched from my fingers. I was no more. A cold, dark absence of personhood was all left behind when the embers settled. Time was a concept for a living. There was no thoughts abuzz in my mind, or cognizance of the experience at all. This was the end of everything. Memory transcription subject, Elias Meyer, former UN Secretary General. Date Standardized Human Time, July 6, 2160. The sensation was as if the lights had been turned back on in a crowded attic after decades of disuse. The fog was choking when the spark poked through dormancy that couldn't be described. Only had words to express the ever-after once the gears were back in motion. To say that I felt startled and disoriented was an understatement. Nothing seemed right, either. Sensations was an uncanny mess. I whirled my fingers to move, but they felt alien, rather than anything like being my own. I died. It's hard to remember. The doctors must have resuscitated me or something, but the peek behind the curtain felt so real. Why was I even afraid of dying? The serenity was unmatched. It took a moment for the world to come into focus, but there was a strangeness to processing the digital input. It felt as though visuals were being beamed to my mind, while my eyes were a mere decoy, even while they tried to mimic the real thing. The touch felt more like a vibration underneath saying something was connecting with my skin. Additionally, there was so much that I couldn't pick up. Saliva in my mouth, thirst or hunger, the temperature of the room, any aspect of breathing, or the normally unnoticed sensation of blinking. Where was the pain, too? Even with drugs, I had sustained a severe injury. Perhaps this was the afterlife, and I was in fact dead. There was no feeling of being a real flesh and blood human being. Hi, Elias. The feeling of the translator's mind warping was familiar, at least, suggesting that I wasn't in the afterlife, unless there was a shared eternal paradise. I commanded my pupils to turn towards the voice, despite how focused and unnatural it felt. Fear signals knocked at my skull as I spotted a talking ant spider standing inches from my face. Reflex almost took over to swing at him. My name is Vernt. How are you feeling? I shied away from him, trying to swallow. Nothing. I can't swallow. What the feck? Where am I? What have you done to me? What are you? I told you not to get right up into his face, Vernt, a human voice said, hovering beside some holographic screen. Recognizing my own species calmed me a bit, since I was well aware of how brutal aliens could be to predators. I've known you since you were a child, and Tillfish still give me the heebie-jeebies sometimes. He's known Vernt since childhood. How fast do these Tillfish grow up? I'm sorry. I was just extremely excited about the project there and the implications. I wanted to know how he'd react and handle it. I can give you a moment, Elias, or let you speak to someone else, Vernt and rambled. My eyes darted around, weariness and unease settling in. No, it's okay. Just please, tell me what happened. What is going on and, where are we? I am, almost certain I died. You did. However, post-mortem, the Vendel did a scan on you, thoroughly imaging your brain. This is a Terra Technologies research lab. We replicated everything that made you yourself, down to an exact science. You have a new lease in life, with true synthetic immortality. I'm sure this feels strange, but I assure you, this version of you possesses all your attributes, memories, and neural connections. We wanted you to be the same. That revelation was like a gut punch. Hearing that I was some photocopy of Elias Mayer, and that the genuine human being had passed away on the streets of Vendel Prime. I threw my legs over the bed in a blinding panic, trying to figure out what the hell I was. My brain, thought processor, I supposed, refused to accept that I was feeling wasn't real. The Tillfish scuttled after me as I sprinted towards a bathroom, on legs that worked, yet felt like unfinished emulations. My gaze locked on the mirror, and I stared at the familiar face. The visage was impressively lifelike, an accurate image of my true self, not some metal husk or a phony thing. Maybe I should cut the skin and see what's underneath it. It's just wires. I don't like this one, but nope. Please don't harm yourself, Vernt blurted, somehow reading my mind. That I liked even less, and I was beginning to feel like a caged animal, or better yet, an amoeba under a microscope. I wanted to make this stop. It was a nightmare. I desperately wanted to end. Breathe, relax. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I tried to draw in breath, but some emulator of my voice was all that responded. Get out of my head. I'm sorry about that. We're trying to monitor your experiences for quality assurance and to make corrections so this is less jarring for you. We can read any person's mind live now. We're just skipping the extra steps with your program. What year is it? We didn't have anything like this, and why have you done this to me? It's 2160. It's been 24 years since you passed on, which is a long time, but not as distant as it could have been. This technology could change everything. Our lives are so short, but they don't have to be. Whether you want this or not, you know that many people do. 24 years. I thought it'd be longer, but that's something. I'm amazed that humanity is alive too. They're tampering with dangerous realms, fields that should have been left untouched. Beset by a mismatch of emotions, I returned back to a chair, cradling my head in my hands. The last time I remembered crying was when the first bomb struck Earth. Not that those were in my memories. This was overwhelming enough that I wanted to break down, but there was no tears in my unblinking eyes. God, I'd really have a predator stare now. I wished I could seal my cursed gaze shut and fade unaware back into the dark. Thanks to the utter lack of breathing, there was also the faint cues that I was suffocating. The more time progressed, the more strongly it felt that I was constantly holding my breath while diving underwater. In the surreality of my present form, it was all I could do not to scream and succumb to mania. You want to read my mind, Vert? I never asked for, or agreed to this. I think you should have let me rest in peace. The toolfish's antennae scrunched in a display of concern. We're planning on making adjustments so you'll be more comfortable. It's a learning process for all those who'll come next. If you really don't want to be involved, we can shut you off your program, Elias. I only wanted to give the hero of humanity a new lease on life. Is that why you chose me? Damn, self-preservation. This is horrid. Yet I don't want to die again. To return to non-existence. I tried not to focus on what was missing from the current stimuli, and to train my thoughts on what he was saying. Through the blame, in my adult faculties, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Because you think I deserve better? I have a lot of reasons, but that's one of them. Look, now that this technology is out there, people are going to use it. I want it to be done right, humanely. You're the right person to speak to the galactic community and lobby for ethical standards and civil liberties. Where digital minds can be installed, minimum standards for comfort, and citizenship privileges. I cast a cold stare at them. Can you turn me off at will? Control this body remotely? I assure you we won't do that. It'll be the same thing as murder or coercion of any other sapient, and I hope you believe that I wouldn't do that. The human from earlier spoke in a raspy voice that sounded a bit wild, yet distinctly familiar. He sported a welding mask obscuring his features. You're free of so many of the burdens of being human, ones that I dream of escaping. You can change your face if it disgusts you, and you can't feel pain. Your brain, your body won't break, and we never have to lose anyone again. Don't you see the chance you've been given? My facial cues seemed responsive, down to the most minuscule muscles. I slanted my eyebrows inward. I know you. Your voice. No, you don't. It's understandable with all of this that you're latching onto something familiar. Chalk it up to a technical glitch and move on. It's not that, Marcel Fraser. It might have been decades to you, but it's been 2 weeks since I remember speaking to you and your friend. You're delusional. That person died years ago, he hissed. His hands flew upwards before he stormed out of the room. With an exasperated sigh, I turned towards the Vert, frowning. With everything going on, I don't appreciate the attempt to gaslight me. I know that was him. What happened? A single-minded focus on bringing back that friend, the toolfish sighed. It's a long story. I apologize for his behavior. I assure you I have no intentions of violating your autonomy or doing anything other than helping you acclimate. I feel half human at best, I groaned. You've got to make some changes. We can make improvements. Give it a few days to see what you adjust to and what's vital to enter in. The only features missing are things that don't add much to the human experience. You can choose to end this at any time, but what's the harm in giving it a shot? What do you say? I mulled it over, circling back to how it had felt when my brain gave out. I was the only being that could describe what it was like on the other side. After a short duration of having returned to the physical world, being shut down was a frightening prospect. It wasn't like I'd expected to wake up back up, but this was a second chance that could also be given to many others. Others would suffer as I was now. If I wasn't the one willing to stick it out and iron out the rough edges, this might be the opening of Pandora's box. But as Vern pointed out, it wasn't like it could be sealed shut again. Someone will have to be a guinea pig, but maybe I can steer the technology towards being a force for positive change. It is remarkable how far we've come in such a short time. Well, I would like to hear what's become of humanity, and frankly, how the hell we managed to survive. Things look pretty bleak in my last days, I responded aloud. I'd also like to hear all of your reasons for reviving me. You implied there are quite a few, and I want all your cards on the table.
Not getting anything by you, am I? The Tillfish mandibles clacked, apparently a laughing gesture. His compound eyes focused on me. One thing at a time. There was a lot that happened, or was discovered after you, untimely demise. For starters, we learned you humans were hardly the only omnivores.
That got my unyielding attention, as I couldn't believe what I heard. What?
Yeah. The Federation cured any meat-eaters, which means they genetically installed allergies to animal flesh, and then overhauled their culture to fit their ideology. My species is one of the former omnivores, and I chose to go back to it, since I moved to Earth as soon as I reached adulthood. I sort of have an obsession with humans and how you work.
Noted. I took a moment to digest what he said. Somehow, being talked about like nothing more than a machinery wasn't the most shocking element. I'd have to get used to that, at any rate, since I was a literal machine now. They hated omnivores. They wanted us dead for being predators of God. Did they cure humanity?
But no, it was more that it proved your buddy was the side of things. Their starvation attempts went far beyond you and the Oxor. You were just the failures. I mean, they did try to cure some abducted humans in the mid-20th century.
I beg your pardon?
Don't worry. The fossil failed for centuries because they couldn't figure out B12 deficiency. Oh, and to be clear, they targeted real herbivores too. You should see what the Vendel look like now that humanity uncrippled them. They're quite the opposite of the skittish species you knew. Would you like to see a picture of Tarva's unmothered daughter?
The gears in my head were grinding to a halt as the information overload was beating me down. Yeah, sure. Why the fuck not? Burnt handed me a holopad, revealing an image of a much older Governor Tarva. Her snout fur was turning white. The human that she was with made me do a double take, as I recognized a graying Ambassador Noah Williams cozied up next to her. That made me reevaluate exactly why Tarva had rescued the astronaut who made first contact as our ambassador, despite how nervous she'd been around him in the initial stages. I didn't know if robots could get whiplash, but I was definitely feeling it. My focus shifted to the two fully grown children, one human and one Vendel. The young female had a nose on her snout and was wearing running shoes at the end of her perfectly straight legs. Send the governor and ambassador my regards, I managed, if it wouldn't weird them out too much. I would love to get in touch. Burnt took his holopad back, compound eyes gleaming.
You'll be able to contact anyone you like. Sorry for giving you robot whiplash. Elias, we were just trying to fill you in. Long story, we found out that the feds were hiding their true power to appear weak, and were colluding with the Oxor to keep the war going forever. Humanity fought to get an alliance, and with lots of help, took the conspiracy down. In the end,
right. So we won. We took down the Federation. Then what?
The Federation splintered into many groups. Humanity leads a group of 80-odd species called the Sapient Coalition, trying to plant the seeds of peace and equality. However, we presently need help from other parties to stand with us, not to alarm you, but there seems to be a malevolent entity just outside our space, and our clashes with them don't bode well.
A sense of dread festered within my mind, an all too familiar sensation. Who exactly is this malevolent entity?
We don't know. They shoot everything that moves, and we think they perpetuated a genocide against another predator species homeworld. I'll get you briefed on specifics, but it's bad news. So we need everyone, from the neutral shield to the malign but reformed Oxor, and the predator-hating Federation Light to team up. That's the main reason the UN wants you back in the game.
I pointed a finger at my chest, scoffing. What on earth does that have to do with me?
You have goodwill with just about everyone, including the Oxor. You're used to assuaging predator fears, and you're practiced at getting help in impossible circumstances. Elias, you were a diplomat that wanted peace, but made the hard decisions.
I'm a cyborg replica of myself, and you think anyone would want to parley with me in this state?
It'll be rough for a few Fed loyalists to worry about your instincts when you don't eat and can't feel hunger.
The Federation thinks hunting is hardwired into our brains, Vernd. This is all too much. I want to be alone, please.
The Tillfish patted my hand with a grasper before moving away. Of course. Take all the time you need. Think it through. Let yourself get accustomed to everything I threw at you. There'll be a short scuttle away."
As soon as the insectoid departed from the room, I searched for anything to cover my eyes, ensuring that I could see only shadows. The changes since my time frame of references were drastic, though there were a few things I could take solace in. Humanity finding friends and a place in the galaxy, as well as vanquishing the immediate threats of bigotry, were positives. The fact that Chief Hunter Isif had let Earth return to full autonomy and succeeded in his ideals of reforming the Arxor meant that my deathbed wish had come true. It was peace between the Dominion and the Prey folk, but it was understandable that there wasn't acceptance or immediate forgiveness. The dagger to my heart was hearing of a new war, the anti-predator madness starting all over again. I hadn't been able to fully spare Earth, despite my best efforts to make us palatable to Federation maniacs. If this was a do-over at keeping my people safe, before this war spilled onto our doorstep, I would give it my best. However, with how it strained my sanity was right now. I hoped that I could hold on to my sense of self with no wild claims to distract me. I fell into taking inventory of everything that was missing. There was no feeling from where my tongue rested against the roof of my mouth, no sense in the air, and an absolute stillness where my stomach should be rising or falling. Like Vern so amply mentioned, I had no feelings of hunger or fullness at all, because the only insights I had now were metal rods and wires. My hand snatched up the pillow with the last semblance of control, and I screamed, perhaps hoping to run my voice ragged like a human would. But that was ineffectual as well. With attempts to regain my sense of normalcy or being alive rebuffed, I fell into a defeated, tormented silence. End of chapter. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.